Okay, should we do this thing? Today is March 5th, 2021, and this is the temperature in Crystal, Minnesota. So every day I premiere these videos on YouTube, and you can hop in the chat and leave comments and stuff as we watch the video together. A couple days ago, Gary Kennedy popped on, and he made a comment about the fact that sometimes he thinks too big about his projects or doesn't work inside of his budget as he's writing an idea. His ideas are too big for what he can actually accomplish in that moment. And this is something that happens to me all the time, and it leads to the topic that I sort of wanted to talk about today, which is that fear of failure. Because I have that even in the earliest stages. In fact, when I start storyboarding, that's when I start to fear failure the most. Because I look at the movie coming together and I realize how much I'm going to have to do and how hard it's going to be, and instantly I start to pull back in my own way. I think there's something to be said about writing outside of your box and writing bigger than you can maybe afford sometimes, but then also making sure that you're honest with yourself about what you're going to have to do, what you're going to have to change, what's actually possible. Filmmakers talk about starting with short films. Filmmakers talk about starting with short films all the time, how that's like the best way to get going. And part of that is to learn, of course, finding your footing in your actual process. But another big part of that is being able to dumb things down or take some odd risks that you wouldn't be able to take with a feature. Our features in our head tend to be so much bigger, and the concept of making a full-length movie, you don't want to half-ass it because you know you're going to put years into it. You want that full budget. You want to be able to go big with it versus a short film where you can go kind of smaller. I think there is something to be said about that fear of failure and using it to your advantage. I try to all the time. I like to have that fear kind of consume me a little bit, and luckily I have Daniel Degnan. He walks me through my moments of fear and terror, and I have my wife to go to and be like, we're making a movie about stupid evil pumpkins. Why are we doing this? And that why is based on fear of failing. Fear that I'll fail myself, and make something that I'm not proud of, the fear that the audience isn't going to accept it for what it is, and obviously that fear that I'm just not going to get it done, that I'm not going to have the time, that something else is going to happen and I'm going to start and it won't ever get accomplished. And that's one of the biggest fears I have, is that I'll start something and not finish it. I mean, that's what happened with Greywood's plot. I started it, and then I consistently had this fear that I wasn't going to finish it. When I was on The Good Exorcist filming with Rebel Without a Crew, the last day of filming, I said to Daniel, we need to go back and film Greywood's plot, because that fear just loomed over me. I think that's good. I think that fear is something we should sort of foster in a way. You don't want it to consume you, obviously, and I think a lot of us have a fear that people are going to judge us. With these fucking videos, I do it all the time where I'm like, man, is this video too stupid? Should I really put it out there? Does anyone care about my rambling? Until I realize, like, I don't give a shit. That's what where you gotta get with these projects, is realizing it doesn't fucking matter. You will fail here and there along your journey. That's inevitable. You have to learn to embrace those failures and those fears. And in pre-production especially, when it starts to overtake you, like, oh my god, those couple of days before you actually go into production, they're the most terrifying moments of your life, knowing that you're going to have a crew relying on you to make decisions, and knowing that even if you're not the actual director or filmmaker or a writer, even if you're just a crew member, there's still that fear that you're going into something that isn't going to be flawless, and it's not going to be flawless. So you're constantly juggling these ideas back and forth. That doesn't so much go for like big productions and stuff like that. That's a very independent, low-budget filmmaking concept, that fear. When everything is structured and you're there getting paid, there's no actual failure. You're gonna get paid. At the end of the day, you're making money, and that's what you're doing it as a job. You can have fun with it, you can love it, but it's never gonna be the same as when it's your baby and it's your project, and that fear that just consumes you constantly as you continue on. And it moves into production and post-production and post-post-production. We're coming to the end of this week, and next week I'll be talking about production and actually making the movie and topics. So make sure to leave a comment and let me know what you'd like me to talk about, just bibble babble about. With this specific element of fear in pre-production, I think you just constantly have to be trying things. because that's where I tend to flourish, is when I start to get that fear. I can feel like, oh my God, I'm going to quit if I don't move forward and do something else. Sometimes that means going back to the script and rewriting something. Sometimes that means jumping to storyboards again, or a totally different scene, or reading the script through with Daniel, or God, there's a million things I do just to take my mind off of the thing that's giving me the fear, but yet progress. There's all these little baby steps that have to happen along the way. And one of the things we tend to do when that fear overtakes us early on is think too big. And we start to go like, well, what's the point of all of it? Instead of going, well, what's the point of this? I can figure out what the point of this little element is. So when I start working on a project, one of the things I do is I write down a list of what can I work on at any given moment. And that definitely helps me personally, where I can just look at it and be like, okay, this script is shit. I'm terrified that it's awful, and I don't want to work on this. But you know what I can work on? This special effect, or this thing that I'm going to need the day of filming. Or a bigger thing, breaking down my schedule, which is what I'm going to talk about tomorrow, actually scheduling and how my mind works when I start to schedule these projects. It's one of the things that I'm actually best at when it comes to making these low-budget films, is I couldn't make Greywood's Plot and The Good Exorcist in the amount of time I did if I wasn't good at looking at the bigger timeline and being like, this is what we need to do this day, this is what we need to do this day, and that will help alleviate that fear. I can look at the schedule and be like, okay, let's just do Monday. Monday, we've got to work on this, this, and this. Let's just get that chunk done. And I guarantee once you start filming and once you start seeing what you're putting together, you will have that need to keep going. I mean, it's just infectious when you're on a set and you're with people and you're in it. You just want to keep making stuff. I'm a huge proponent of embracing that fear and also finding a way to alleviate it at the same time. That's how I have to work with it in my brain. It's the only way that I can get up that day of walking into production and know that I'm not going to make a complete ass of myself. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumbs down. All of that bullshit that you guys all know because you've all been listening to YouTube videos for forever. I would love to hear what you would like me to ramble about in production, or what you enjoy about these videos. I'm hoping to do more stuff like this as I go into production on Scumbag, and it'll probably be a lot of Patreon exclusive stuff, and not green screened and like this. This was an experiment for March. I'm going to do much more raw, behind the scenes, as I'm making the movie, giving my little OTFs. That's an on the fly. That's one of the things you do when you're on a reality show and you turn to the camera and you're like, today's been a really tough day. I don't know how I'm going to make it on to the next day. That's an OTF, and I'm going to be doing a lot of those. Hopefully not in that voice, but you know what I mean. These videos are extremely helpful for me. Even in just this first week, I'm already seeing myself be able to compartmentalize what I need to do for Scumbag and my Super 8 film, because those are two projects that I have this fear with. I'm right now sitting here going like, man, I've been talking about Scumbag for 2 fucking years now. Am I ever gonna actually make this goddamn thing? This has given me that push to know like, okay, I can do it. Today's video right now, just talking about this fear, it makes me want to get up and film Scumbag right now. So hopefully it makes you want to film stuff too, and there's something inspirational in this. All right, until next time, don't let your meatloaf, folks. See you tomorrow. Bye. Bye, everyone. Swallowed something.